Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Blue Heart Podcast. I'm your host, Lieutenant Joe Pangaro. So today we're going to do a little bit of a Tales from the Road episode. We'll talk about some, they're not necessarily war stories, but they are experiences. Let's put it that way. So some of these experiences, as we all know, anytime you spend any time on the job, you find out that there are hysterically funny things that we come across. There are terrifyingly frightening things we come across, and there are unbelievably horrible things we come across. So, all of these things, though, the way I look at it is that each time we experience something like that, it adds to our wealth of knowledge. I call it the Rolodex. You put it in your head, and now it's something you know about, you've learned about, you've experienced before. So as I look over my list, there's a couple here that I think that they're not funny, they're not terrible, I guess, in the sense of it, but they were something that helped me to understand as a patrol officer. I had never been to a lot of these things, and it helped. So I'm going to tell the stories to you. One is about an old man in an ambulance, which told me about the humanity of the people we deal with and ourselves. And another one was one of my first things I ever did as a detective. One of the first cases that was mine, my partners, Chuck and Jeff, were there with me. But what they did was interesting, and I'll tell you about it. So we'll start with the old man in the ambulance. So I was a patrol officer, and you get dispatched to all kinds of calls. One of the ones we go to a lot are first aid calls. You go to a first aid call, someone fell down, they cut themselves, they hurt themselves, they're having a heart attack, they're, throwing up, whatever it is. They send cops to everything. So I get a call of potential stroke. Right. And I go driving over there and get there as quick as I can. And the wife's at the front door waving at me. She looked like she was in her mid 60s, late 60s. And at the time I was young. I was in my late 20s. And I see them and she's hysterical, upset. She's like, "Oh my God," I pull up. She goes, my husband's having a stroke or a heart attack. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. Okay. And I hear in the background, headquarters got the ambulance rolling. They were volunteer and ambulance group. So it takes a little bit of time for them to assemble people, get them in the ambulance, get them on the pad, and get them out to me. So I figure, okay, now I start thinking, right? Stroke, heart attack. What are the protocols for dealing with a stroke victim? What are the protocols if the person is having a heart attack, right? Look, listen, and feel. Am I going to do CPR? What is it I'm going to do as I'm going in the door? And you could feel the energy from this woman. She was very upset. This was obviously the guy's having a stroke or heart attack. It's bad. So I go in, and I got to tell you, I was relieved when I saw the guy sitting on the couch, and he was a big guy. Physically, he was probably 6'2", 6'3", late 60s, right? Late 60s, a little heavy set, not an enormous guy, but he had some weight on him, right? Older guy with some weight on him, and he was as white as a ghost. You can see there was something wrong. He was sweating, um, but he was talking. And I said, "How you feeling?" He goes, "Not good. Something's wrong. I have a pain in my arm. I think I'm dying. I'm having a stroke or heart attack." I said, "Okay. The ambulance is right. They're going to be right here in a second. Let me get you some oxygen," right? So I got him the oxygen tank. Here you go. Start breathing the oxygen. And then I hear the ambulance coming up the street, which was a great relief, right? Well, they pull up and they're coming in the door. Now they come over and they check the guy and this and that. And they say, "We think it's a heart attack. We're taking him right immediately to the hospital." And the wife says, "I'll follow over in my car." I said, "Well, I'll drive you over." She goes, "No, no, I'll go over in my car." And the man says to me, this elderly man, he goes, "Officer, would you come with me, please? Would you come in the ambulance with me?" Unusual request. But I think in the couple of minutes that I spent with him there trying to calm him down and relax him, I think, matter of fact, I'm sure, um, that his concern was that he was going to die and he didn't want to die alone, right? That was the feeling I got from him. So I said, yes. I said, "Headquarters, I'll be going to the hospital with the ambulance." He said, "Okay." So they put the guy in the back. I hop in the back of the ambulance with the guy, um, and we're driving on over there. In the meantime, I could see him, and he's reaching out. He's reaching out like this. So I held his hand. I said, listen, calm down. The ambulance crew is good. You're in the ambulance. This is the golden hour or whatever you have. Whatever condition you're having right now, you'll be fine when you get there. They'll fix you all up. You'll be all good. Well, this guy was so grateful to hold my hand, and he was thanking me and this, that, and the other thing. And I'm saying, you sure your wife's okay to drive? I felt, but he goes, no, no, she's fine, she's good, and this way we can come back later. And I said, perfect, right? I think that gave him some hope. You'll come back later. So we drive over to the hospital. They get him out. They bring him in, and he thanks me profusely. Thank you for coming with me. Thank you for coming with me. I wasn't alone. I wasn't alone. And I knew, that's when I knew. I said, here was his concern that he was going to die in the back of this ambulance, and he would have died alone. His wife on her way, nobody in there. He just would have been him and an ambulance crew. That struck me. That struck me that I didn't know this man and he didn't know me, but we were brought together because of our job. We were brought together because of the work that we do as law enforcement officers. And in that very short period of time, we made a little bit of a connection where he wanted me to come with him to the hospital. So he ends up going in. They take him in, and the ambulance says, "Yeah, we'll take you back. Let's go right now." So they drive me back to my car, and I go about my business. Driving around town, answer my calls. About 2 hours later, I got a call. Headquarters says, "Hey, can you 10-3 come into headquarters? Somebody first aid squad wants to talk to you." I'm like, "Oh, I don't know what they want. Maybe they didn't get the guy's name. Who knows?" I have it all right here in the report. I go in and they said, "Hey, just want you to know, they got him into the emergency room. They took him up on the cath floor. They were doing this, that, and the other thing, and he coded out and he died. They couldn't save him." Wow, that was powerful, right? I guess his wife got to see him, as they were taking him in or whatever, and I don't know if they got to say goodbye or whatever, but the fact that he asked me to drive with him in the ambulance, he held my hand, and I was some kind of comfort to him, was important for me as an officer to realize. In all my teaching and all the classes I do, I talk about, we talk about, oh, we got guns and search warrants and police cars and uniforms and kicking doors. All of that stuff is important. But the real important thing about law enforcement is that it's a person-to-person business. At its essence, it's about people. And that call taught me early on that every call I go on is extremely important, even a first aid call, right? So keep that in mind when you're out there. You mean a lot to everybody you come across because you never know what's going on with them, right? And if they reach out to you, reach back. You'll feel better about life, and it'll help you through this career, which can be traumatic. As we all know, cops kill themselves, right? Because we don't talk about this kind of stuff enough. So that's important. So that's the old guy in the ambulance. And then the other one was one of my first calls as a detective. So I said this wasn't funny. There's some humor in what my partners did, but it wasn't funny. We had got the call of a hanging, right? A hanging, a suicide. So a couple of things that we're concerned about, and we should always be concerned about with a hanging. We always think, oh, well, that's obviously suicide, suicide, suicide. Somebody want to kill themselves. But can you ever imagine that somebody ever faked a hanging to kill somebody? And the answer is yes. That is absolutely a possibility. Low possibility, but it is still a possibility. That as a patrol officer, detective, whatever, when you go there, you have to go with suspicious eyes. What went on here? What's happened here that maybe I don't see? Is there something else that happened that I don't see? So we got to look very closely. So my partner, Chuck, had been a detective about a year longer than me. My partner, Jeff, was a detective probably for 2.5, 3 years at that point. Both very, very good men, good friends of mine to this day, my blood brothers. But this first real call, my first couple of days in the detective bureau, we were getting ready to go to dinner, right? The three of us were going to go out and go get some dinner. We get this call of a hanging at this house. So he said, okay, come on, let's go. So the three of us jump in the car and we head on over there. And they're like, all right, we're going to show you the detective protocol for a hanging, so you know what to do, because you might be working by yourself when this happens. So it was a good learning experience, I thought, right? I had seen hangings before, I'd seen suicides before, people who shot themselves, all kinds of things. So that wasn't the strange part. But we get to the house and we go in, and there was there was a mom, because the person who killed herself was a young lady. I think she was like 20 years old. She was special needs person. She had some mental conditions, but she had hung herself in her closet and killed herself. So in talking with my partners going in, and they talked to the mom, the dad was there. They were obviously distraught. They were upset. Apparently they had been out. Dad was at work, mom was doing whatever she was doing. They come home, they can't find the daughter. They look around and they find her hanging in her closet. She had left a note that she was tired of her life and she was uncomfortable, having special needs and all that, and she just wanted it to end. It was kind of sad, and I felt bad for the parents. And again, they're hysterical. But I remember talking with Chuck and Jeff, and they're like, "Now listen, this looks absolutely like a normal situation where the girl hung herself. She committed suicide. That's what it looks like. That's how it appears. The parents are reacting appropriately." They said, "But you know what? She's special needs. You don't know if the parents were overwhelmed, that the parents may have done something. We have to just check that out. We have to make sure that that's not a part of what's going on here." And they asked a lot of very appropriate questions. It was enlightening to me to see how these detectives handled it and what they did. And the whole time I was like a sponge sucking it up, listening to this, watching how they dealt with the family, calmed everybody down, got them out of the room. Now, one of the things we know is that oftentimes families, when they see someone who hung themselves, they will cut them down because they want to take the rope off their neck. Maybe they can save them, they can do something. And if you go there and you see that they are obviously not potentially alive, or that if you got them down, you could give them CPR or something and bring them back, we don't cut them down and we don't take the knot. We don't undo the knot. We don't do any of that. If they're dead, we leave all of that in place for the medical examiner to come out, because the condition of the knot, how the knot was tied, what hands were used, all that is important for the medical examiner to determine suicide or foul play. So if the person, when you get there, the person's already down on the ground, the family took them down. Sometimes they can't get the knot undone, but they can cut the rope or the wire and lay them down, and they're trying to save them, whatever. If you get there and they are obviously dead, you check all your signs and you realize that they are dead, do not remove the knot, right? Leave it there for the medical examiner and do what you can. So here I am in the middle of this, watching all of this, and it was sad because it was a special needs kid. You knew that, she had a difficult life to begin with, and then she was so sad she killed herself. And that was tough as a human being to see that and realize that. So keep that in mind. Your humanity as an officer is often challenged by the things that we see, like something like this. It's very sad, but we have to be strong. We have to do the right job. We have to make sure we handle things appropriately all the time. So Chuck and Jeff are like, okay, listen, the medical examiner is going to come, do whatever they're going to do. Then the body removal is going to come, and you know they're going to take the body to the hospital for an autopsy, this, that, and the other thing. And you talk to the family, this and that, and we'll be back to pick you up in about a half hour, 40 minutes. And I said, what do you mean back to pick me up? And they're like, well, we're on our way out to dinner. This is your call, Junior. Good luck. And they left. They got in the detective car and they drove away, and they left me there. And that was an interesting moment because, it's one thing like when you're a brand new cop and you go on calls, right, with your FTO. It's nice to have that FTO there, right? Because you see what's going on and there's an experienced hand there with you. When you go on your first couple of calls and your partners show up, right? The other cops show up in a call. It feels good to have everybody there. You can handle things. You're learning. You're doing the right thing. Well, going to this call was good that my partners were there with me because they had experience with this as a detective, which I didn't have. As a patrolman, I showed up and did what I did. But now I'm the center. I'm going to do this investigation. I'm going to go to the autopsy. I'm going to do all of this stuff. So I'm gathering as much information as I can about the young girl, her parents, the family relationship, all that. But my partners got in a car and left, and they drove away to go get spaghetti dinner somewhere, right? And so that was kind of strange. Well, I finished my investigation. The ME came, the county detectives came because at the time they used to come out when there was a suicide because it was considered a suspicious death until it was not a suspicious death. And then the body removal came and took the young girl to the hospital for the autopsy and everything. But again, this kind of a call, when you're dealing with something like this as a patrol officer, as a new detective, be aware that there's all kinds of thoughts that'll go through your head because here you are. I remember probably the strangest thing there was when the parents were in the kitchen. I could hear them in there crying. My partners had left, and it was just me and this young lady who had hung herself. And there she is hanging dead from this whatever it was, a rafter or something in the closet. And it was bizarre to be there with her, to think that not too long before that, here she was living her life, doing things, talking, interacting with her family, and then she chose to die. And then here it is. And here I am, a guy who doesn't know anything about this family, and I'm standing in this girl's bedroom as she's hanging dead from a rope. It is very strange. It can make you feel weird, but understand we're doing a very important job and we have to do the right thing every time. So I learned a lot from that case. I learned a lot from the old guy in the ambulance, and I'm passing on to you. The job is just not hot calls and uniforms and kicking doors and locking people up. At its essence, police work is a person to person job. And sometimes we get involved in the middle of people's lives, and it can be sad, it can be difficult, it can be uncomfortable. But that is why you are a professional, and that is why you're there. So this is Hope is not Hope is not a thing. This is Lieutenant Joe here for the Blue Heart webcast. Now, we do have a new sponsor. Instead of just we have Blue 360 Media, my publisher. We have Riot Tint, who makes glazing for windows. We have medicalessentialdiagnostics.com, who can get you screened as a healthy officer in New Jersey, make sure you're healthy. We now have Doobie, and I don't mean doobie like doobies. Doobie, D-U-B-E-E. It's an energy drink, sports drink, focus drink. They're awesome. And I actually have, let me show you this. This is really cool. They decided they wanted to sponsor for us, so you can see that. It's D-U-B-B-Y. This is their website, dubby.gg. Now, if you use this code here, you use this code, there's a discount on their products, and they got all kinds of cool stuff. I mean, that's why hey, we love the cops. We want to, sponsor your shows. We want to come on because we love law enforcement. We want to, give back and all that. So I think this is a discount code for you. It's sports drinks. Well, all you young guys and girls, you're into the sports drinks and all that stuff. They have caffeine in their things. They have focus factors. They got tons of stuff. So go take a look. That's our new sponsor. I just wanted to pass that on. Doob E is how they pronounce it. So I want to thank everybody and say, let me drop that out of here. I appreciate you all being there. This is important stuff. Go do the right thing. Be safe out there. Serve your community. It is an amazing career we have.